Thank you so much, and I do have to get back to a markup, so I really do appreciate that. But first of all, let me just say, Chairman Tester and Vice Chair Collins, who is being filled in by Senator Moran today, I'm really glad to join both of you to keep talking about the investments that we've got to make to support our troops and keep our country safe. These hearings that we're having are so important to remind us that we need to return to regular order and pass our nation's funding bills in a timely, bipartisan way, and I will keep saying that till we get back to regular order. Now, if we are going to stay ahead of our competitors like China and others, that means that our investments have to keep up, not fall behind or fall into uncertainty because of partisan gridlock. So I'm really glad we have this opportunity today to hear from our witnesses about what that means for the Army, and of course how we support our service members and their families, like the troops at Joint Base Lewis McChord and Yakima Training Center in my home state of Washington. And it's really important to me that this conversation also focuses on getting our military families the support they need, like childcare and mental health care and good housing and schools. And we also have to make sure we're keeping men and women in uniform safe. My heart goes out to the families of the soldiers we lost in the recent helicopter crashes. I expect to hear more following the Army's review of the safety procedures about how we are preventing future tragedies. Because at the end of the day, the heart of our military isn't our weapons or our equipment, it is the brave and talented men and women who are willing to put their lives on the line to keep our country safe. So before I ask my questions, I just want to thank each of you for your service to this country. This committee has a deep appreciation for everything our service members do to keep their members safe. With that, let me just ask a few questions. Secretary Wormuth, in my home state of Washington, we are still seeing issues with the availability of suitable and affordable housing, especially at JBLM. And I'm hearing that as many as 250 service members and their families spend from 3 to 4 months in hotels or other accommodations while they wait for a home on base to become available. These service members and their families have to have safe and reliable and affordable place to live, period. I want to ask you what you are doing to make sure that housing needs are being met both on and off base.
Thank you, Chair Murray. Availability of housing is a challenge around JBLM and in a number of other locations around the country. We're doing a few things to try to work on that. First of all, this budget has $690 million in it for family housing. And then we also obviously have our privatized housing that we work with the 5 different companies that provide that housing. So we are constantly looking at how can we invest more, how can we encourage those companies to invest more so that we're able to generate more inventory at places like JBLM. Another thing that we're doing, I think, is we are really pushing OSD to reopen how they calculate the basic housing allowance. And this goes to, obviously, being able for our soldiers and families to afford housing off post. And I think the way that we have calculated, I personally am not fully comfortable with how we're doing BAH. And I think we're going to look at that, open it up, look at the anchor points that we use, look at the utilities cost factors that we're using, because in some cases, I think we may need to raise the BAH rates to allow our soldiers and families to be able to afford housing off post. So that's some of what we're trying to do.
Good. I look forward to hearing more about that. Thank you. A Department of Defense review that was finished last year found that the drinking water supplying 24 installations exposes about 175,000 service members a year to dangerous levels of chemicals linked to cancer and other illnesses. The presence of these environmental contaminants, including PFAS, on installations and their surrounding communities continues to be a huge concern of mine, and I know many others here in the Senate, especially with some of the worst contamination levels at JBLM and Yakima Training Center. Are there barriers you have identified in cleaning up these contaminants on active installations?
Chair Murray, to my knowledge, there are not barriers to cleaning that up. I mean, if there are cases where drinking water is not found to be safe, we will immediately work with the affected areas to get, access to safe drinking water, whether that's by looking at, new wells or other ways to solve that problem. I am aware that I think the EPA is contemplating making some changes to how it assesses what is a safe level of PFAS, and I think that will have potentially very substantial
So are you
implications.
coordinating with the EPA to make sure the Army is testing at the most recent recommended lifetime drinking water health advisory levels?
I'm sure that we're coordinating with the EPA. If the EPA changes what they determine to be a safe standard, that will have implications for us that I think will be significant financially.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Hoeven. I appreciate it.
Senator Holt.